Kunasaku Uvanga Amy Kahi. Hello, everyone. Thank you very much for inviting me to be the moderator for this next panel on perspectives on One Health and wildlife. And it's my pleasure to introduce the first speaker, who is Jason Akearok, who works with the Nunavut Wildlife Management Board as Executive Director. So come on up, Jason.
Thank you, Amy. Kwenamik. So, yeah, Jason Nakayawonga, RT Nunavut Umayra Jokunganit. Rani Tavani Nakamaila, to Salong Elis in Nangnia Murtakwa Agutong unit. They were Kalunat on Naramitan Tagutin Naktasi. So, thank you for allowing me to be here. I'm happy to do this presentation named Nanuk Narratives, Voices of the People Living Alongside Polar Bears. So, yeah. So this project here is a collaboration between three what we call land claim organizations in Canada. I know sometimes other countries might not know what land claims mean, but what it means is like a treaty, an agreement between, in this case, Inuit and Canada. And it's a measure of control that Inuit have gained through this agreement in Nunavut. So myself, where I work, the Nunavut Wildlife Management Board, I'm collaborating with another executive director, James Nook, from the Tongait Wildlife Plants and Fisheries Secretariat, and also the executive director for the Nunavut Marine Region Wildlife Board, Tommy Palliser. So the three of us are collaborating on this Nanuk Knowledge and Dialogue project. And so what I'll be talking about and what this project is about is that polar bears are Nanuk and Inuit. And many of us know here, I think, polar bears, are important for Inuit. I think whenever you think of polar bears or Nanuk, you think of oftentimes the Arctic and also the people that live on it, so Inuit. And also it's important in other ways, such as food security, that, polar bears provide for Inuit. It's a way of connecting to the land, being out on the land. And I think in other ways too, just to be being out on the land, social well-being, as social economic benefits as well that polar bears can provide for income for Inuit that harvest or guide harvesting polar bears. Now, the focus of this for polar bears is what is called the Davis Strait polar bear subpopulation. In Nunavut, there are 12 subpopulations classified for management. You can see that this subpopulation in Nunavut, Iqaluit, Pangnaktok, Kimmirut, and also the Nunavik regions and Nunatsiavut regions, and also a community in Greenland. So this subpopulation is a large subpopulation of polar bears. Now, we began this project by putting together this interdisciplinary working group, and it's a variety of people that have come together that may not necessarily work together sometimes, but you have elders, hunters, wildlife managers, biologists, health researchers, working with Amy, for instance, researchers, lawyers, and communities. We've also people like Salomanawa, our mayor in Iqaluit, but he's also a very active hunter, well-respected hunter. Pitsula Kilabak, she's here too from Pangnaktok, and glad she's here. But you can see the variety of people that have been working together, and this working group has been giving us direction on what the project should be regarding Davis Strait polar bear and Inuit. So what they decided on, the guiding that they provided us, is that to get collective Inuit knowledge and make it more accessible influential, and implemented for sustainable Inuit harvesting of Nanuk. So how do we go about achieving this, considering this focus? So what we've come up with is what we call the Nanuk narratives, or Nanurlaganangmik Unikakangnak, is how we've translated this Nanuk narratives. And what this is that, okay, hang on. 1 second, just trying to get this, change the slides, there. So the Nanuk narratives, again, we're trying to come up with ways we can capture Inuit knowledge, and the Nanuk narratives is through the documentary films we've been collecting. And, here's just kind of a picture of some of the things we've been able to, the people that have been interviewed. And it's a way of amplifying Inuit knowledge through videos and voice. And these are very short videos. They range from a few minutes to several, or 15 to 20 minutes of video interviewing people, but also, for instance, videos of a harvest of a polar bear in the 3 regions in Canada, in Nunavut, Nunavik, and Nunatsiavut, and also personal collective stories. And I think that you can see some of the pictures too, some of the elders that have been interviewed, some of the knowledge holders, some of the hunts, the polar bears, but also we recently reached out to Greenland. And I know I've seen a clip of that. I found it, I've seen videos before of hunts or interviews before, but what was different about this that I liked is that kind of the Inuit lore of polar bears that I'm not very familiar with. But I thought it was very interesting to see some of that side of Inuit culture that I'm not so familiar with. So these are some of the things that we've been doing under the guidance of the Interdisciplinary Working Group. And what's important here, I think, is that the videos that are being produced, they'll be reviewed by the people that are being interviewed, people in the hunt. I think there's some, just a way of kind of making sure that this is the video that they want seen to the public and so on. I know that there's been instances in the past, maybe videos that have been taken and maybe, twisted in a way that I think that reflected negatively for Inuit. So we're going to make sure, I think, that the videos are going to be reviewed by the people that were interviewed, and that we've got their support before we can share that publicly. And I know that in Nunavut we are moving on to that. There's been interviews in Nunavik and Nunatsiavut. We've been in Pangnaktok. Amy was there, and she noted a lot of enthusiasm when these clips of the videos were shown. And there's spontaneous discussions about the options or what they could do with this, and how they could share information. So there's a lot of excitement. And I know we're trying to work here now in Iqaluit with the local wildlife organization to capture some information about polar bears here in Iqaluit. So here's some things that have been developed so far: the Inugdra hunt in Nunavik, Greenlandic spirit, information on bear attacks, and everything else, and it's ongoing. I think some other ideas we have is how to care for a polar bear hide and how to cook food. These are some things I think that we are looking to be able to get through the docu-series that we're developing. And it is our hope that through this documentary film, this is how we can move this along through education, potentially through opportunities through research, and maybe even through implementation or influence on policy. As an example, in Nunatsiavut, an example that through education that is being done is working with curriculum experts to develop Inuit-centered teaching kits and resources to be used within classrooms across Nunatsiavut. So here's an example of how this project is going back to some of the communities, to some of the youth, and how this information that is being gained can be used. also to these interviews through this videos that is being captured. You can see some of the transcripts or the information that is being gathered and coded in a way and using an analysis for qualitative research outputs. So here's some options, some opportunities that might come out of this project. And I wanted to go into a little bit about well-being. I think, some people have talked about it here, and I heard it here, like being connected to the land and how good it is for your mental well-being and so on. In other ways too, I know that for me and my family, it's a very special moment for us to be out, and also different ways of kind of utilizing kind of wildlife. My wife and family there, so and showing the work that she did for some of the seal skins and sewing comics and parkas and so on. And I think these are different ways I think that can be beneficial and demonstrated to youth that can see this and passed on some of the opportunities for this project that we're doing. And when I discussed policy, I mentioned that there are 12 subpopulations in Nunavut, and I think we have the largest population of polar bears. I think there is a lot of pressure on Nunavut regarding polar bear management. It is highly regulated, and you can see here that a lot of the polar bears also are interjurisdictional with other regions of Canada, but it's also international, as I mentioned, in Greenland. And I know that, where I work, we are frequently asked to make decisions regarding quotas for polar bears. And there's always this kind of tension between science or researchers on kind of the, the typical kind of battle is to lower the quota, whereas Inuits say polar bears are doing fine and increase the quota or remove the quota. So if this video is not necessarily intended to, I guess, add to any more tension, but if there is something that we can build from, if something comes out of it such that it can impact policy, management units or quotas, or other ways of managing polar bears, perhaps this is something that will come out of this. But I think I know in Nunavut, there is, as I mentioned, a lot of tension. I see it quite frequently where I work. So the next steps I mentioned in Iqaluit, we're hoping to be able to do videos, interviews, and a hunt and other aspects of polar bears and Inuit in Iqaluit. So we're looking to extend it to Iqaluit. There'll be some scheduled video work in Pangnakdok coming up, and we'll continue dialogue and collaboration amongst our various partners. So, Namik.
Maybe we have time for one question, if anyone has a question for Jason. Maybe. Yeah.
I just, on looking at that chart, the likely declining and the sampling there they have. And I noticed in our area where we're maybe due to climate change, we're getting a lot southern bears coming our way, making it look like we have more. But is it because that wide range of that the numbers altogether are being reflected not so much at a very concentrated place, like where Outlet is?
Yeah, no, good question. I know that there is the Western Hudson Bay subpopulation where you're from in Iqaluit, and as you know, like a lot of those polar bears come through Manitoba, Churchill, and up through the coast, right through your community in Whale Cove and so on. And whenever I've been to the meetings, there's disagreements oftentimes about that management unit, Western Hudson Bay, and there's also Southern Hudson Bay. A lot of Inuit argue, polar bears move. It's not restricted to this management units, it's artificial. It's tricky because I know that a lot of these subpopulation units are based on satellite telemetry of polar bears. There does seem to be some localized movement, but we know too that polar bears move, so it's a tricky question. It's ongoing, but it might reflect kind of just the management unit. But I hear what you're saying, though climate change also shifts things where maybe those bears move further north and kind of affect communities and make concerns about public safety. So, yeah. Right.
Thank you, Jason. Petula and I have been fortunate to be the health people involved in this project, and I think it's also a good example of a project where we don't just collaborate within our own country, but collaborating amongst other circumpolar regions, which is great. Thank you, Jason.